Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. I'm Eric Blank. I'm the chair of the Colorado Public Utilities Commission. This is a public comment hearing in proceeding number 24 AL-0275E. The Black Hills Energy request for a rate increase for its electric customers. But before moving into the public comments, we're going to start off with a short introductory summary of Black Hills filing by the PUC Director, Ms. Rebecca White. Director White.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission, and everyone for making time out of your evening to be here tonight. I will just walk through a very simple summary of the case before the Commission so you all have a good understanding of what has been filed by Black Hills. So this is a rate case, which is a formal process to allow the PUC to determine if a utility's proposed rate increase is just and reasonable. These proceedings are generally characterized by extensive discovery, multiple rounds of pre-filed testimony, and legal briefings, very similar to a civil court proceeding. The process starts with the utility filing an advice letter with the Commission. The advice letter explains the changes the utility is requesting to make to its tariff. The tariff then contains the terms and conditions, including prices, that the Commission would authorize the utility to implement. The advice letter is supported by written testimony from the utility that explains the utility's costs to provide service to customers in Colorado and what justifies the proposed rate increase. This rate case was filed by Black Hills on June 14th of this year. It was assigned a docket number, which is 24 AL-0275E. If you want to find me tonight, I'll give you that number. It's helpful to look up some of the information online. So that's a key number. In this case, Black Hills requests several approvals from the Commission. The company updated its request through rebuttal testimony recently, and the figures highlighted below, when I'll read them out for you, reflect what was provided most recently in their request to the Commission. So first, in what we refer to as phase one of the rate case, the company states it needs an additional $25.1 million in revenues each year to continue providing electric service to its customers. In phase two, the specific rates charged to customers by their rate class are determined based on the amount of electricity or load that each rate class uses. Black Hills ran a study that it determined that the residential rate class has increased its use of electricity relative to other rate classes, such as small commercial and industrial. This would mean that average bills for the residential class, based on the revenues requested in phase one, would increase by 26% per month. But in order to avoid this, Black Hills has requested to mitigate the class allocation of the base rate increase to 13.99% for all rate classes. Black Hills requests authorization to eliminate the current tier rate structure and instead implement a rate structure that has a flat rate for each kilowatt hour. For the residential rate class, this would be 13.95 cents per kilowatt hour. And then the company also requests an increase in the fixed monthly charge for customer service, billing, and meters from $8.77 to a flat $9 per month. This would lead to an approximate $15 increase to the average residential customer's bill, or about 13.8% per month. The requested increase for small commercial customers would be about $23 per month, or 9.5%. Black Hills also requests authorization from the PUC to offer a time of use tariff as an option to all rate classes. The optional rate would have a 2-to-1 on-peak to off-peak ratio, with on-peak hours lasting from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. on non-holiday weekdays. Numerous parties have intervened, including trial staff of the Commission, the Colorado Office of the Utility Consumer Advocate, the cities of Pueblo, and the County of Pueblo, Pueblo's Economic Development Corporation, Energy Outreach Colorado, several union groups, the Colorado Solar and Storage Association, the Board of Waterworks in Pueblo, the Fountain Valley Authority, and the Colorado Springs Southern Delivery System, and of course, City of Canyon City and City of Florence, along with Electrify America, Western Resource Advocates, Sierra Club, and Wholesome US Incorporated. The Pueblo Board of Waterworks, Canyon City, City of Pueblo, COSA, Electrify America, the Energy Outreach Colorado, staff, et cetera, all filed answer testimony on October 11th of 2024, which with that preceding number you could look up and read. And then on November 8th of this year, staff and the Energy Outreach Colorado filed cross-answer testimony, and Black Hills filed rebuttal testimony that reflected their updated requests that I've just read. The commission will conduct an evidentiary hearing in December where parties will cross-examine the utilities witnesses on their testimony. After that, the commission will take up this matter for decision and set the just and reasonable rates to be assessed by Black Hills to its customers going forward. A decision is expected in February of 2025. Thank you, Chair. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Director Wright. With that, it's about 4:15 on November 19th, and we're now officially on the record. Again, this is a public comment hearing in the Black Hills request for an electric rate increase. I just want to start off thanking the mayor, city council members, county commissioners, and the broader community for hosting us here today. The public comment hearing is a critical part of the process, and for me, one of the most valuable, where we get to hear directly from impacted customers and other stakeholders. These are difficult and challenging issues, and we don't have all the answers, which is why hearing from you is so important. With that, can my colleagues introduce themselves for the record and make any preliminary remarks they'd like to?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi there. My name's Tom Plant, and I'm on the commission. And just want to thank all of you for coming out. As Director White said, Canyon City is intervening in this case, and they represent you there, but this is our opportunity to hear directly from you, and that's incredibly valuable for us. So appreciate you all coming out and sharing your stories with us.
Good afternoon. My name is Megan Gilman. I'm also on the commission, and just happy to be here with you today. Thank you very much for hosting us here in Canyon City, and really look forward to hearing from each of you to understand your perspectives on this issue so that we can consider that, and really appreciate you all taking your evening to come spend with us and share your thoughts up at the microphone, as the chairman said, an important part of the process, and I very much look forward to hearing from you each tonight.
I also express my appreciation for everyone coming out. Just a few comments on logistics, and we'll get started. This public comment hearing today is being recorded and broadcast by Canyon City. It'll always be live, including during any breaks. There is a court reporter who is listening and will take down what you say for the record. The comment hearing is formal, like a court proceeding, and we ask that the audience be respectful of the speakers that comment today. In our role as commissioners at this stage of the process, we are here to listen and learn, and to make sure your comments are reflected in the record. We will not be able to answer questions or respond to statements. Like a judge, we cannot engage in dialogue on this case pending before us. This case is ongoing, and we will not make any decisions until after the evidentiary hearing in December. I will call on commenters today, starting with elected officials. We would also welcome written comments at any time, which can be filed through the Commission's e-filing system, submitted via the Commission's online comment form, or email to dora_puc_website at state.co.us. In each case, we'd request that you specify the proceeding number 24AL-075E. The Commission weighs equally public comments received whether written or orally, so we encourage you to follow up by filing whatever you'd like in written form. With that, I want to thank you all again for being here tonight to share your comments, thoughts, and stories. With that, I'd like to turn to Mayor Troutman for introductory remarks, and thanks again, sir, for hosting us tonight.
Well, thank you for coming down. It seems like I just left here from last night. I was going to say coming down from Denver, but you were from Buena Vista?
Yeah.
And so, well, thank you for coming here, and thank you for, Mr. White, for having this here. It's really appreciated in our county, our towns. It's great that you can come down and hear what our people have to say, how this will affect their lifestyles, the way they do business, and their families. And that's very important. And thank you, all of you, for coming. That's a great crowd. It's rare that we see that many people out, but it's very important to us that you hear what they have to say and how, again, this will affect us in this part of our state. So again, thank you for coming down.
Thank you, and we look forward to the conversation. So thank you, sir. Next up, City Council Member Emily Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, for being here, and thanks to everyone for coming tonight. I might not sound as nice as the mayor, so I'll just dig right in here. I'm Emily Tracy of Canyon City. I am a city council member. However, my comments this evening represent only myself. Again, thank you for making the trip here. We really appreciate this opportunity to have a public comment hearing here. Black Hills amended their rate request, as was noted earlier, in their November 8th filing. In my opinion, it should have been treated as a new case, with the process starting over. I hope that the Public Utilities Commission staff are taking a close look at the new notice to customers to determine if there are any errors, as there were in the June notice. You commissioners ordered on November 6th that the company mail, this is in quotes, mail the updated customer notice in the same manner it originally mailed customer notice, no later than November 15th. I received the June notice in the mail. To date, the only updated notice I have received was by email, not mail. The company filed a statement November 15th that it has provided notice in the same manner as the company originally provided the notice to customers. Is this accurate? In general, I do not find the amended rate increase request any more acceptable than the original one. You have heard comments about the mismatch between the highest cost electricity provider in the state and the high poverty area that is their service territory. Our median household income is at least 39% below the statewide median and even farther below income in the Northern Front Range. The company has stated that 66% of its meters are in disproportionately impacted census blocks due to poverty. In Pueblo, you heard from Sister Nancy, who provides services to the poor, including assistance with utility bills. I'm more than a little concerned to read rebuttal testimony from a company staffer which seems to criticize Sister Nancy's comments at the hearing in Pueblo. It just seems odd for the company to single out a commenter to try to discredit what she said about her work with the poor. There's often a significant amount of confusion in Black Hills communications. For example, and this is multiple choice, I'm going to ask folks here, how many of you believe that your residential bill is proposed to increase by nearly 19%? Any hands? There's some hands. How about nearly 14%? There's a few more hands. 30%? That's probably good. I don't see hands. Or 0? Okay. And for business owners and managers, how many of you believe your business bill is proposed to increase by 10%? I don't know if we have very many business folks. 14%? 9.5%? 30%? 0? I mean, these are all, except for the 30%, I kind of threw that in as a ringer, but these are all things that I think folks have heard at different times. Also, another example, I was contacted by a customer asking about time of use rates. She had been told in 2 different phone calls with Black Hills that everyone in the service territory is currently on time of use rates. But in fact, it currently is an opt-in rate with very few takers, except certain EV owners who are required to be on that rate. On its face, Senate Bill 21-272 seems to say you have a responsibility to determine how best to provide equity to disproportionately impacted communities. The answer to that question might go beyond this rate case and might actually require the state to do something more substantial regarding the mismatch we live with. I ask that you deny Black Hills' rate increase request and consider this territory's need for more affordable power. We need an electricity provider that can lead us into an electrified future, not lead us to the poorhouse. Thank you.
Thank you. City Council Member John Hamrick.
Thank you, Commissioners, for this opportunity. I am John Hamrick, although this evening, before I share my pedigree, I first want to say I'm here representing myself and not as a member or representative of any other group or body. I am a retired metallurgical engineer out of the mining industry who has been fortunate enough to be elected to City Council of Canyon City and will be term limited at the end of next year. I also serve as Mayor Pro Tem for Canyon City, being elected to that position by my fellow City Council members. I am chair of the Canyon City Energy Franchise Committee and also was co-lead negotiator for the city in 2018 in the failed attempt to establish a new franchise with Black Hills. That draft franchise was rejected by the voters, likely because the voters expected bills to be smaller because of that rejection. I also participated as a citizen and as a representative of the city in Pueblo's attempt to establish a municipal electric utility. So that you understand my political philosophy, I am also a bonus member of the Fremont County Republicans, serve on their executive board, and am a past vice chairman of that group. Although this will sound a little bit like coming out of left field, I'll bring it all together here in just a page and a half. My first topic concerns the likelihood of an electric utility can undergo one of the two types of bankruptcy. For the sake of clarity, I will refer to them as liquidation bankruptcy and reorganization bankruptcy. Because an electric company is obligated to provide electric service to customers via the monopoly right to provide such electric service, that is, because of the compact, there are almost no examples of liquidation bankruptcy for privately owned electric utilities. There are, however, several instances of reorganization bankruptcy by privately owned electric companies, the most recent example of which is PG&E in California. Their PG&E reorganized in the face of substantial liabilities because of the fires sparked by PG&E operations. The company was protected from creditors via reorganization bankruptcy so that a new rate structure approved by their PUC could be put in place that allowed PG&E to cover the cost of the pending liabilities. My next point will bring this into a focus for today's proceeding. General Motors Corporation established a wholly owned subsidiary, General Motors Acceptance Corporation, GMAC, to loan money to consumers so that GM could sell more vehicles to consumers. At the end of that loan period, GM had sold a vehicle, GMAC had collected interest on a consumer loan, and the customer owned a car. Excuse me. Black Hills has a similar wholly owned subsidiary that provides capital funds to Black Hills. Because Black Hills is protected from liquidation bankruptcy, and because Black Hills can transfer financial liabilities to its customers through reorganization bankruptcy, coupled with PUC rate increases, guaranteed by the compact, there is zero risk involved in these loans. And the icing on the cake for Black Hills is that at the end of the day, after borrowing money from themselves but guaranteed by their customers at a zero risk loan to Black Hills, and alluding back to the General Motors example, they own the car. I urge the commissioners to deny the requested rate increase. I urge the commission to take into consideration the zero risk aspect the compact should have on any rate increase. And I urge the Commission to address the inequities created by the transfer of assets to a private company, assets acquired at zero risk, when those assets should be held in trust for the ratepayers. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Fremont Commissioner is Debbie Bell.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having us here, and welcome to God's country. We're glad to have you here this afternoon. I would like to state, unlike my predecessors, I am here speaking for my fellow commissioners this evening. We believed originally we did not have to become an intervener in this case for our voices to be heard. We knew that Canyon City and Florence both chose to become official interveners. However, we believed you would hear our voice, just like you're hearing the voice of those 800 letters you've already received and every person sitting here this evening. So thank you for listening to us. We have sent you a letter. I would like to read that into the record right now. As the elected Fremont County Board of County Commissioners, we are writing to the Public Utilities Commission to express our strong opposition to the proposed rate increase by Black Hills Energy. We are deeply concerned about the adverse impact this proposed increase would have on our families, on our farmers and ranchers, and our small businesses who form the backbone and fabric of our community. Fremont County has recently enjoyed many successes in attracting new businesses. Excuse me. Among the many reasons these businesses choose to locate in Fremont County is the relatively lower cost of doing business as compared to many urban communities. However, the proposed rate increase threatens to undermine these efforts by substantially increasing the cost of doing business and by placing untenable financial burdens on our local workforce, existing businesses, including farmers and ranchers, and the broader community. Many households and small businesses in our area are already struggling to make ends meet. The massive increase in electric rates, as proposed by Black Hills Energy, will stretch budgets even further, causing hardships for families and pushing some businesses into insolvency. This is particularly concerning given the economic challenges our community has faced in recent years. To be clear, we do have a positive relationship with our local Black Hills office and corporate leadership. Our complaint relates to broader corporate decisions, which in some cases have likely been influenced by misguided state and federal policies. We stand united in opposition to this proposed rate increase with our citizens, farmers and ranchers, businesses, with other government agencies who recognize this as a clear deterrent to growth and as a threat to the sustainability of our community. We understand that operational costs and unrealistic mandates may necessitate a rate adjustment, but we urge the Public Utilities Commission to consider the broader economic context and the compounding effect of our community when determining the amount of that increase. The families of Fremont County simply cannot bear an increase of this size in the cost of a service that they simply cannot choose to do without. Instead, as unpleasant as it may be, perhaps it is time for Black Hills Energy to implement austerity measures, just like county government, city governments, and families in our community have been doing for many years. We look forward to your thoughtful consideration and to a resolution that promotes the sustainability of rural communities rather than flight from them. And the letter is signed by Kevin Grantham, Debbie Bell, and Dwayne McFall. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Bob Stovall.
Yes, thank you very much, members of the commission. I do have extra copies of my statement if I can give it to somebody at some point so you can put it in the record.
Yeah, if you could give it to the court reporter. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I am Bob Stovall. I'm the Government Affairs Chair of the Royal Gorge Chamber Alliance. And I really want to express our appreciation for your coming here today to hear all of us speak. I suspect there aren't many going to speak in favor of the rate increase, and I'm certainly not one of them. The Chamber Alliance is comprised of over 400 businesses, nonprofit, and individual members from across Fremont County. Black Hills Energy is a valued member of the Chamber Alliance, and we understand the need for the company to recover its costs so they can continue to provide reliable electric service to its customers in Fremont County. Chamber Alliance has not taken a formal position on the Black Hills Electric request for a rate increase, but I'm here to express our business members' concerns over the magnitude of the increase and the impact on business. I'm not a utilities rate expert, but I do have some experience with regulated businesses. In fact, I grew up in an age when everything from utilities to airlines to banks were regulated. I served as general counsel for a state oil and gas commission. We weren't a rate-making agency, but we participated in Federal Energy Regulatory Commission cases on behalf of our producers. I have a basic knowledge of the workings of utility rate-making process. I was working in the industry in an age of deregulation of public utilities and saw the challenges that were presented by those entities that serve communities such as ours. As a bank president, friend of my family once told me when I was starting my career, a regulated company is largely protected from the risks of failure. But in exchange, it is subject to limits on its returns. Now, we do understand that regulated utilities are of necessity monopolies. It's impractical to offer competition. Electricity is not one of those commodities that is easily bought and sold in the open market. That's where the commission fits in. You are the substitute, if you will, for competition. It's your job to see that utilities can make a profit, but that they don't do so by spending too much or overcharging their customers. Stated in the simplest of terms, your job is to allow utilities such as Black Hills to recover reasonable costs plus a reasonable rate of return. Now, those costs can include building and replacing infrastructure necessary to deliver the product, plus the costs of buying or producing electricity and of operations. That's the easy part, to say that. The hard part for you is figuring out which of those costs it should recover through the rate structure that is paid by the customers, and which of those costs should be borne by the owners of the company, the stockholders. I was pleased to read recently that you have disallowed some costs from being included in the rate base, costs that are more properly the responsibility of shareholders. Rate setting is where a regulated utility differs from other businesses in our community. The reality is, the more a utility spends, the more it makes, because its return is based upon what it spends, its rate base. That's contrary to reality for Black Hills customers. The business customers of Black Hills do not have the opportunity to be guaranteed recovery of their costs, whether that be the cost of their buildings, the wages of their employees, the cost of the goods they purchase for resale, or the cost of energy used. The businesses we represent do not have any guaranteed revenue to ensure that they stay in business. There are many costs over which businesses have little or no control, including utility costs. Whether it be buildings, labor, inventory, or electricity, these businesses must decide which costs to incur and recover those costs and get their profits by hard work selling their goods and services to their customers at a price their customers are willing to pay. Unlike an electric utility, our other business members do not have a built-in customer base. Here's an example. I have a friend recently who went out of business because of the cost of loan interest, taxes, and utilities, which is simply more than they could pay. It brings up a very important factor for you to consider. Electric service from Black Hills is only one of many costs customers must pay before they even open their doors. As you no doubt know, we've seen major increase in property taxes in the last 2 years. Businesses always paid proportionally more property tax due to the now repealed Gallagher Amendment, and the business assessment rate continues to be higher. Insurance costs have gone up substantially. Various government-enacted employee benefit programs, including minimum wage and family leave programs, continue to go up. Interest rates have risen over the last 4 years, in some cases to unsustainable levels. Now, we understand that Black Hills must pay many of those same costs too. We know that Black Hills is the highest priced, regulated, investor-owned utility in the state by its own admission. This commission's rate survey from 2021 shows that Black Hills rates are materially greater than average. The survey explains in some depth why Black Hills rates are so high, but our businesses can't switch to a lower-priced utility. State and federal policymakers, as has already been pointed out, continue to push for the increasing use of sustainable and renewable forms of energy. We commend Black Hills for its efforts to develop those renewable sources. In fact, my rooftop is part of that effort, but that was at my expense, not Black Hills, and I don't get a return on that investment, even though I am providing my surplus energy to Black Hills. Policymakers also continue to push the country towards a greater use of electric power for all purposes, including transportation. Yes, that means Black Hills must be able to supply that power, but the users of that power must be able to afford it in order for that push to be successful. I don't envy you. You have a tough job and a very complex one. What are the reasonable costs? What is a fair return? Black Hills, of course, asked for the moon, knowing they would not get it. Now they've lowered their request, asking for a few clouds. But is that enough? I really can't stand here and tell you what level of increase, if any, you should approve. I've looked at the complex information that's been provided by the Utility Consumer Advocate, but I don't have the expertise to crunch those numbers. Thankfully, we have you and your staff to do that. What I can tell you is that the requested increase, even at the reduced request, is excessive in the current business environment. Black Hills must also tighten its belt. Because Black Hills comes and asks you to tell our businesses, large and small, to pay more for its service. I ask you, on behalf of our member businesses, to remember that we do not get to come to you or any other agency to allow us to charge our customers more. We want Black Hills to be able to continue to provide the kind of service we've always received from them. We agree that its investors should receive a reasonable return on their investment. But that's the same thing our other business members want. And that's why we ask you to scrutinize the requested increase carefully. Thank you very much for taking your time to come and listen to us.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kirk Souther.
Thank you very, very much, commissioners. My name is Kirk Souther. I've been a volunteer of the Canyon City Energy Committee over the last couple of years, so I've done a deep dive into the utility industry in Black Hills. But I'm not here representing them. I'm here representing myself. And my background has given me a different viewpoint probably than you'll hear here, because I have a undergraduate degree in accounting and a master's degree in urban planning. And what I'm looking at this as the price increase that they're asking for as a justice issue of protecting the public good. We have three parties involved here. We have the Black Hills, we have customers, and we have the PUC. Black Hills is a regulated monopoly. There's basically no competition. They're also investor-owned, and the sole purpose of the board of directors of Black Hills is to maximize profit. They're not concerned about the product. As long as they can get by, they just want to make sure that they can get as much money as they can. The customers, the second component in this, they have really no choice of who they're buying their electricity from. I mean, and then in addition, through the last couple of years, we found it's just about impossible if you want to try to get a different provider. All the legal issues, and they just make it very difficult. So basically, we're stuck with the same provider. That's where the PUC is a third party. And the PUC is the protector of the public good. You are in place because you have to regulate a monopoly, and you make judgment, a legal judgment, if a price increased is just and equitable. And as a protector of the public good, the PUC in 2021 did a rate study, which I have right here. And I've looked through that very extensively over the time. And according to the PUC rate study, it took a look at all the different utilities in the state, whether they be investor owned or co-ops or municipal. The residential rate by Black Hills was 34% higher than the state average. Commercial was 14% higher, and industrial was 15% higher. So just looking at the regulated monopoly business model, it's very, from my background in accounting, this is very unique and a very different animal. You have how they operate is they have a controlling entity or a corporate parent holding company, and then the parent holding company owns numerous utility operating companies. So Black Hills Corporation owns 8 different other companies, and these businesses are allowed to do business with each other and make profits from that. And where the Public Utility Commission comes in is with the revenue requirement formula, which allows for them to be paid back operating expenses, but it also allows them to make profits from their long-term investments. Something interesting that I read from the report, it said in Appendix A in your study, the amount of generation built by Black Hills and its IPP affiliate is quite substantial, and it's a major driver of rates. In addition to that, they also use what's called double leveraging. So they loan money from one company to another company. And in their FERC statement, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission income of statement in 2020, $18.5 million was paid to another one of their companies. And the total liabilities between the different companies that Black Hills Energy had was close to $450 million. So they, in addition to the rates, they also are making a lot of money between all these different companies and transactions, and I don't think that that's considered in it. So in summary, the PUC has a task. We have a regulated monopoly that wants more profit. We have a customer who has no choice who they buy from, and they're just trying to keep their costs down. And the PUC is the protector of the public good. And you're the regulator, and then you're the judge of a rate case that's just and reasonable. Now, these are legal terms. Just can be conforming to a standard of correctness, or legally correct or lawful. And Webster Dictionary defines reasonable as not extreme or excessive, moderate and fair, such as a reasonable price, inexpensive, possessing sound judgment, such as what a reasonable man would decide. The legal concept of due diligence is used when making a judgment on this case. Due diligence requires that you look at all the research and analysis, and due diligence also means it is the care that a reasonable person uses to avoid harm to other persons. The PU must examine if harm will be incurred because of the rate decision. Let's take a look at the two parties that harm could occur to. Black Hills, per your rate study, has the highest rates in the state. Black Hills has 8 operating companies and make millions of dollars of doing business between each other. The double leveraging example I gave was $18.5 million paid to another one of its companies. So if Black Hills is awarded an increase, they know, or if they're not awarded an increase, they know how to use a system to make more money conducting business within the parent company and its 8 operating companies. On the other hand, consumers, in the rate study, we already pay rates that are higher than the rest of the state. The 34% higher for residential, 14% for commercial. We have half of our residents live with incomes under $57,000, which is 58% of Colorado's median income. 15%, now these are from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 15% fall below poverty level. Unlike Black Hills, who can generate more income from parent company in its 8 operating companies, residents can't do this. And also at the federal level, with proposed federal tax cuts that to the wealthy and corporation, cuts will likely occur and target the low-income families. Now, it's my understanding that the Office of Utility Consumer Advocate has made a case for no rate increase for Black Hills. I agree with the rate case that the rate case should not be approved. In my opinion, I conclude that a reasonable person would say that if the rate case is approved, it will harm customers much more than it will harm Black Hills. The decision to uphold what is just and reasonable for the public good is in your hands. Thank you very much for your time, consideration, and assistance.
Thank you. Mr. Kyle Horn.
I'm Kyle Horn, a proud resident of Canyon City for the last 28 years. I am currently the executive director of the Canyon City Area Recreation and Park District. The district is the second lowest funded recreation district in the state of Colorado per capita. On November 5th, we were seeking a mill levy increase of 4 mills for operations of a proposed swimming pool and the district. The question failed by 3.7%. Some of the issues raised by the voters against this ballot measure was the proposed Black Hills rate increase. Ironically, this defeat will now have a negative impact on the day-to-day operations of the district at a time when there is no wiggle room. In 2025, we are projecting to use $128,000 from our fund balance or general fund reserves in order to balance the budget. Part of that is due to the proposed increase from Black Hills. By the time we certify this budget, no decision will be made by the PUC. This means our only choice is to factor in the rate increase to our budget. The Recreation District is not able to absorb this cost in 2025 or in the years to come. In all fairness, Black Hills has provided support to the Recreation District through grants and in-kind donations to help with projects that would otherwise not have occurred. That is not lost on us. We greatly appreciate it. Despite their much appreciated help with these projects, we still have a budget to work within, and we are supposed to be stewards of public dollars and represent the community that we proudly serve. Again, the irony of the situation. The community doesn't want to provide additional funding to the second lowest funded rec district in the state, in part due to the proposed rate increase. This makes our current situation even more dire as we do not have the current financial resources to absorb this proposed increase. It is a horrible position to be in. I recommend that you agree with the City of Canyon City in their position. The proposed rate increase not only negatively impacts our constituents in their decision-making and budget process, it is very much impacting the district's budget and ability to provide services to the community. I would like the Public Utilities Commission to take that into account during your decision-making process, and we do thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Cheryl Henderson. Mr. Scott Morton. And then Mr. Jeff Cock is next.
Hello. I have copies as well. All right. Thanks for having us. My name is Scott Morton, and I serve as the Director of Operations for Canyon City Schools, Fremont RE1. I'm writing to express the school district's deep concerns regarding the proposed rate increase by Black Hills Energy. This proposal, if approved, would have a devastating impact on our district's financial health, jeopardizing the quality of education and services we provide to over 3,000 students across our 11 facilities. As a public organization reliant on limited tax dollar and taxpayer funding, our operations budget is meticulously managed to ensure we maximize every dollar. For the 2023-2024 fiscal year, our operations budget was $2,590,800, with $620,294.87, nearly 25.5% allocated to Black Hills Energy. The proposed 12.5 rate, I know that's kind of going back and forth, but that's the number we were working with, would elevate our annual utility cost to $742,831, consuming 28.67% of our budget. This is $82,536.86. An increase is more than a number. It's the equivalent to the salary and benefits of an experienced teacher, the cost of new Chromebooks for an entire grade level, or the funding for 2 paraprofessionals who directly support student learning. This proposed rate hike would not only strain our already limited resources, but also hinder our ability to provide essential services. As a rural district in Colorado, we face unique challenges, including limited access to funding compared to urban districts. For years, we have been proactive in implementing energy efficiency measures to reduce costs and increase sustainability. Some of those notable efforts include solar repurposing. We moved some solar panels from one building footprint that shrunk to an outside field. Investment grade audit. We partnered with Schneider Electric to complete over $3.5 million in deferred maintenance projects, emphasizing energy efficiency, such as replacing the 18-watt LED bulbs we had to 9-watt LED and upgrading 3 HVAC units to more efficient models. We also worked with the building automation systems, integrating heating and ventilation systems for optimized performance and energy savings. These initiatives demonstrate our commitment to responsible energy use and fiscal prudence. Despite these efforts, we cannot absorb an additional $82,536.86 without compromising critical programs and resources. The true cost of this increase is not just financial, it's educational. Redirecting funds to cover higher energy costs means fewer resources for our students. Our ability to hire and retain quality teachers, invest in classroom technology, and maintain safe and secure facilities would be severely constrained. These sacrifices directly impact our students' ability to thrive academically and compete in the global workforce. We urge regulators to reject this rate increase proposal. The consequences of approving it will disproportionately harm public institutions like ours, forcing rural schools to make impossible choices that undermine the futures of our students. Protecting the integrity of public education should be a priority, and rejecting the rate increase is a critical step in that direction. Thank you for your consideration and listening to our concerns.
Thank you for sharing. Mr. Jeff Koch and Ms. Dolores and Mr. Dennis Swanson are next. Ms. Phyllis Ames.
I'm not a very good speaker, and I am one of the consumers, so I'll do the best I can. I do know that Bill at Black Hills, I used to work for Intermountain Rural Electric, which is a cooperative, or was, and they're core now. So, but some years ago, San Isabel made an attempt to buy Black Hills' right to service, and for whatever reason, they turned it down. And San Isabel is a rural cooperative, and it is owned by the electricity users. All the users own it. We know that the town has old, outdated equipment here, including poles, lines, and from the appearance, transformers. So they haven't been doing a lot of upgrade on our stuff that we have. They've built 2 new substations that we know of, and these new builds do not appear to help the flickering lights, at least for us in Canyon. We still have 1940s poles and transformers, and you can check the metal, the stickers on the pole to see the date, the age of the pole. There are power lines that travel through tree limbs that needs maintenance to prevent outages. We are all paying for the transmission lines and additional equipment that provide higher profits for Black Hills Electricity. We do not offer discounts for people with oxygen for 24/7. And I'm sure many of the people down here in Canyon City do use it. We are a couple of them. San Diego is a big place, and they offer discounts for oxygen use. I think it's just something they need to do. There's talk, I don't know if this is true, that they're talking about putting demand meters based on usage for the time of the day when it's real busy. If they put demand on residential or any of the stores, it's really going to be a significant increase for costs for the end user. PUC, please consider the comparison of many utility companies to arrange competitive pricings from Black Hills or allow us to change to a rural cooperative. Additionally, we personally, I just was looking at all of my bills and what I was getting billed for. So just this year, every quarter, my bill was $20 more. So we put out an additional 4 quarters at $20 more. And of course, that wasn't approved by anyone. We couldn't have used that much more. Please consider that there are multiple seniors residing in Canyon City territory living on fixed incomes, as are we. They're Social Security recipients. So that's all I have to say. I hope you guys consider it.
Thank you. City Council Member Ms. Andrea Stein.
Make sure this is on. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming here to Canyon City and listening to the people we represent. I'm Andrea Stein. I'm a resident of Canyon City for 8 years and a member of Canyon City Council. I've been active with Canyon City's Energy Futures group for at least 4 to 5 years, and I've served city residents as a council person for 3 years. And instead of just facts and figures tonight, I'd like to tell you a little story. I'm active in a political party in town and have participated in many meetings and gatherings over the years, which have been open to the public. There are 2 ladies of a certain age who come to every meeting where food is served. They're very sweet, companionable, But recently, I've realized something sad. As a council person, it's my job to attend many meetings throughout the year in the community, and I'm beginning to see them at diverse, unconnected events where food is served. I believe these women are experiencing food insecurity because they've had to choose between utility bills, housing payments, medical needs, or food. And this is just one example, okay? As of 2020, Canyon City had over 7,000 households. The city also has a population of over 17,000, a median household income of $54,308. Think about that. That's the median income here in this city. And 7,631 housing units. Based on the current rates, the average BHE residential customer monthly bill under rate schedule RS1 with an average usage of 600 kilowatt hours per month is approximately $118. Based on the Public Utility Commission's findings recently, we are paying something like 30% more than the rest of Colorado right now, which comes to an average $35.40 per month per family or per bill. An extra $35.40 per month is 7,100 times 7,176 households. That's $254,030 a month. Multiply that times 12 months, you get $254,000. And that, multiplied by households, that's over $3 million a year. It's leaving this city. It's going to South Dakota, okay? Families making an average of $54,308 per year per household are paying that much to investors in a publicly owned South Dakota company. Federal poverty level is approximately $37,400 for a family of 4. More than $3 million leaves the city and its residents every year that they should not have to pay. And now, BHE wants more. Please consider the recommendations by the Colorado Office of the Utility Consumer Advocate of no rate increase at this time. Additionally, according to BHE's own numbers, 500 businesses in southern Colorado have left the grid in just the last year. That's a lot of businesses. In just this service territory that cuts a swath through southern Colorado. If we're to remain viable communities in southern Colorado, we must have relief from the highest power rates in the state. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Andy Ninas, and then Ms. Pam Gant, and then Ms. Lyrica Sojourn. So Mr. Andy Ninas.
It's Ninus. No one ever gets it.
Ninus, sorry.
It's okay.
I'm tone deaf, so.
E before I. That's quite all right. Thank you all for taking the time to come down to Canyon City. We really appreciate it. So my name is Andy Ninus. I'm a business owner here in town. I own Echo Canyon River Expeditions, the Royal Gorge Cabins, and the 8 Mile Bar and Grill, located on 8 Mile Hill. You may not be familiar with this area. I'm just a few miles out of town. Canyon's rural. I'm a little more rural, and that's going to kind of come into play. 2024 was my 38th consecutive year on the Arkansas River here in Colorado, and my tenure in Canyon City and Fremont County started in 1987. My wife and I have raised 3 children in this community, starting at Washington Elementary and eventually all graduating from the Colorado State University system. I have no formal experience with the Public Utilities Commission, but I am aware of your role as an entity seeking to achieve a balanced outcome. This is the first time I've ever engaged with the PUC, by the way. I hold multiple permits and operating agreements with various state and federal agencies throughout Colorado. I've maintained a license with the Department of Regulatory Agencies under Guides and Outfitters for decades, literally. The scoping and engagement process that is ubiquitous when interfacing with the public is something I'm very familiar with, although this process does seem to have a very specific protocol. I actually would like to thank the long list of utilities that make modern life possible, but are quite frankly taken for granted all of the time, unless you're in a room like this. Although I have no experience with electric utilities, I have actively engaged in the utility that is water for decades. I've been part of the keynote sponsorship for the Arkansas River Basin Water Forum for the past 10 years. I have attended more than one Colorado Springs Utilities multi-day tour focusing on infrastructure, and even had the opportunity to visit the Drake Power Plant while it was still operational. The need for infrastructure improvement and the application of a lens that can anticipate future growth is a complex one that all utilities must leverage, and I do appreciate that fact. Why does your decision matter in this rate case? In addition to the commercial ventures I just mentioned, I'm also impacted on the residential side, with staff housing consisting of a county-permitted staff campground, 2 homes and 3 condos, not to mention my home in town. As a parent, as I'm sure everybody here is, I'm also somewhat responsible for the utility bills or helping my kids out. They bought homes here in this town, and whether I like it or not, my wife has informed me that that is also my burden that I need to carry. So, like everybody here. To provide some context, our properties on 8 Mile Hill alone have remitted right at $34,000 to Black Hills over the past 12 months. Yes, that is napkin math, and that's based on multiple addresses and therefore multiple meters, but the data I'm referencing was acquired from the Black Hills website, the billing section of the Black Hills website. The proposed increase will impact my business to the tune of thousands of dollars annually, which begs the question, am I getting the value I expect from Black Hills? Sort of. What I mean by that is I installed a generator at my facility almost 15 years ago to offset the rather inconvenient service interruptions, specifically at the Canyon West substation, which has given me years of consternation. Over the years, things have improved, but that generator I mentioned has more than paid for itself, and I only wish I would have installed a larger one. Yes, natural weather events are difficult to anticipate, but we have had to refund cabin guests on multiple occasions. And I don't mean just weather-related events. I just had to do it last week, but I'm gonna chalk that one up as weather-related. But that takes money directly out of our pocket. And I've got a sunk cost in turning those cabins and paying for housekeeping and dealing with those things, so it really does come out of my pocket. If anyone from Black Hills is present, and something tells me no one is, let's target that substation for revitalization. It has regular issues, and yes, we call our peers in town only to learn that it is just us on 8 Mile Hill who are down again. Okay? This is consistent, and again, I've been there for over 30 years. In short, we are in the Black Hills service area, and we receive substandard service when compared even to town. And again, that's an empirical observation, just based on the fact that I call my friends in town to find out that it is just us who are being impacted. So the impact on small business is greater than can be articulated here. A rate increase or some sort is likely merited, but I call into question the math Black Hills has used when only 10 days ago I received an email boasting a 32% reduction in the original rate update. This is either a tactical measure on the part of Black Hills, which honestly feels suspect, or the cake was simply not baked when this was applied for in June, calling into question the methodology used in the first place. If we cannot manage what we cannot measure, it would seem that going back to the well might be the best course of action when it comes to a recommended increase. What do I recommend to the Commission? I would ask the PUC to continue to scrutinize this application. As a small business owner, I will also acknowledge that there are market forces in play that have impacted every business, both large and small, as it pertains to their request, and modify any rate increase to reflect the needs of the community that Black Hills serves when it comes to infrastructure improvement, service reliability, and rate. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Ms. Pam Gaunt.
Good evening. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Pam Gaunt, and I'm the president of the Board of Directors for the Golden Age Center here in Canyon, located at 728 Main Street. The Golden Age Center is a nonprofit organization that's been an active part of the community since 1966. We are funded by donations from community members and organizations, as well as local government entities. We also serve the community by providing transportation to the citizens of Fremont County free of charge. Fremont County Transit is operated by the GAC and serves our senior community as well as non-seniors. We also provide non-emergent medical transportation for Medicaid recipients. Fremont County Transit is Fremont County's only public transportation system. The Golden Age Center is comprised of senior citizens of the community, many of whom are on a limited income. Many cannot afford to donate even a little, and that's okay. Our mission is to enhance the quality of life through services and activities for those over 50 years of age in our community. We do not want to hinder their ability to come socialize, get out of the house, interact with others, enjoy a good meal, and even exercise. An increase in electric rates would potentially have a negative effect on some of the services we offer. Because we are grant and donation funded, we do our best to be frugal with the funds we are so generously given. One example of our efforts to be responsible with our funding is we have installed new lighting in the center. We did this for a couple reasons: energy efficiency and cost efficiency. The lighting is much better than it used to be, which helps our seniors see better, and the cost of usage has significantly been reduced. The new lights have helped us keep costs down and allowed us to continue to grow our services within the center with minimal increase of electricity usage cost. If the cost of electricity is increased, our diligent efforts to maintain a reduced cost will have been for naught. Based on our previous usage over a 4-month time frame, the proposed increase will increase our electric bill an average of over $80 a month. This increase will negate our efforts from the last year. I respectfully ask that the increase be denied at this time, and thank you for your cooperation and your consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Lyrica Sojourn and Ms. Carol Dunn and Ms. Wendy Kern. Ms. Lyrica Sojourn? I may not have got that right.
You did very well.
Oh, thanks.
So this won't be nearly as polished as everyone else's. I'm not an elected official. I don't represent anyone. I just live here and I work here. I wrote this on my carpentry notepad coming right from work, so bear with me. My name is Lyrica Sojourn. I am a carpenter for a local residential contractor. I've only lived here a few years and I knew absolutely nothing about the Utilities Commission or local government or really anything until I saw all of the notices posted, mostly online. I didn't get anything in writing. I didn't even get an email, but I rent. That's probably why. So this got pretty important to me, not just because I don't really want to see my bills go up 10 or 15 or 20%, whatever that ends up being, but because of how it will snowball. So like, if I have to absorb the 10 or 15%, I could probably do that if I had to. But I also know that that means the grocery store will increase their prices to offset the rate increase. That means the local gyms will have to. Most of the local businesses will have to look at raising their prices to offset this in an area that, as I have learned, is already pretty economically depressed compared to the rest of Colorado, despite having the highest electric rates. And that's where a lot of people will have to start figuring out, can they afford to go to these local businesses? We've already had a lot leave, and that's pretty unfortunate. And I have a local baker. I like to get cinnamon rolls for the guys at my job sometimes, and that's where if I have to pay higher grocery store prices, pay higher internet prices because they're passing that on to me, I might have to look at not being able to do that. And I know a lot of other people in our community would as well. I frequent all of our local Facebook pages. We have a pretty active online community, and I see people talk about, I need help for dog food. I need help for paying the utilities that I already have. I see organizations asking for donations or volunteers to help those people. And having a rate increase on top of that, I'm not sure where that leaves us. It's really cool to see a lot of our representatives here, businesses as well. I hope that the fewer number of individuals who just kind of live here isn't taken as apathy, or that they're like ready to pony up the cash, or even that they can. I think people they're really working hard already. They're working hard to afford the rates that they currently have, or they're kind of resigned to the fact that it might not make a difference if they show up. So I hope you hear us all today and take your recommendation that we really can't do this rate increase back to Black Hills and tell them thank you, no thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for sharing. Ms. Carol Dunn.
I think it's evening now, so good evening. We're so happy you came down from wherever you came from to Canyon City. It's not often that we get someone that can actually make a difference from the state here, and we appreciate it. My name is Carol Dunn, and I am a lifelong resident of Fremont County. My husband and I are business owners. We're business owners, and I have been honored to be on the Canyon City Energy Committee that was formed by City Council to look at the electrical issues. My husband and I bought Hilltop Market, a 5,000 square foot grocery and meat market in 1972. And after 45 years, we decided to close in 2018. Although high power bills were a factor, it was not the only reason, but it was a big factor in our decision to close. For example, our profit margin just kept shrinking. We had high bills in the summer of 2014 under Black Hills of $3,255. There was a low in the winter of 2017 of $1,940. Those amounts were comparable to a large portion of total wages for a week. And we did replace some old equipment. We did put T8 light bulbs in during that time, but no matter what efficiencies we put in place, our influence on the power bill was out of our control and in the hands of the investor-owned utility, Black Hills Energy. And on top of it, Hilltop was subject to the demand charge for exceeding usage. What makes your usage exceed? It's not only just the fact that you just want to leave on the lights all the time. Maybe there's a power outage. And when the power comes back on and all your freezers and coolers come on at the same time, your usage spikes to over the 50 kilowatt amount. And if usage exceeded 50 kilowatts for a 15-minute period at any time during the billing period, all usage was charged at 75% of the highest rate for the next 12 months. We were punished for a Black Hills power outage. And then ironically, the demand charge was eliminated in 2018, months after we closed. No matter what efficiencies I must say that small and micro businesses must be in control of all expenses to make it. We could adjust employee hours, purchases of our stock, and even the amount of compensation to management. If the milk was to stay cold, the lettuce be crisp, and the meat not rotten, we had to use a certain amount of electric power over which we had no say. And that's true for many of the rest of the Canyon City business community, which have continued to be burdened with high electric rates reflected in their bills. What do you do as a business owner? You cut hours and disappoint customers who may never come back. Your employees who do not work the hours they need may quit or get another part-time job. You may not buy the inventory you need or buy lower quality goods. Customers are not happy. The diversity and vibrancy of our community has been diminished, and new businesses are leery of starting a new venture only to find that they can't make it here. Black Hills is holding us hostage because we have no choice. Can they then raise the amount of the ransom? PUC, please tell the company that they will get a 0 rate increase. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you for sharing. Ms. Wendy Kern, Mr. Kyle Horn, and Jerry Fry.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm following you along. I came from Pueblo. I actually live in East Pueblo. And actually, first, I'd like to say congratulations for how many people showed up here tonight. The Pueblo turnout was horrible. So I had talked a lot about solar that evening, and I was at my girlfriend's house about a week ago, and literally a light bulb went on. I started down the road, and I realized that 5 years ago, I came home one evening. I live on a 40-acre parcel clear out in the county, and there was this horrible vibrating noise on my property, and I couldn't figure it out, and it was after dark. Well, I finally tracked it to my transformer in the driveway. So about 10 o'clock that night, Black Hills showed up, 2 guys in one of the bucket trucks. They got up there, they checked everything out. They said, "Oh, the wind is vibrating your power lines." Okay, so they left. Well, I can also pick up my mail on the corner about a quarter of a mile away where the transmission lines are on the corner. They were vibrating again. I got home that night, they were vibrating again. Well, I finally called the Black Hills Energy office the next morning, and I said, if the wind was that strong, for as hard as those were vibrating that night, my ducks would have been in Kansas. I said, there's something else going on. And in the meantime, I had been communicating with my girlfriend on 36th Lane, and she said, every night I come home and I have to change my clock on my microwave. So we started putting our heads together. We have 7 marijuana grows within 5 miles of my house. What it eventually turned out to be was when they were flipping all their grow lights on at the same time that night, and those nights in the winter, it was pulling such amounts of power that it was actually affecting our lines, our homes, our generators, everything. So I contacted the local office the next day and I said, I think we've figured it out. It's the marijuana grows. Well, one of the managers came out and he said, well, we kind of had suspected this, but I think you've actually hit the nail on the head. So in the next 3 months, they ran brand new power lines. The point that I can tell that they started at was Business 50 and St. Charles Mesa River. They went almost 6 miles south. They provided all of the marijuana grows with brand new transmission lines, transformers, power poles. You could see the brand new poles right up to their driveway, and then the old poles going down the road. When the gentleman came out to look at mine, he said, do you want to know how old your pole is? I heard the lady say this before. There's a little metal thing that they stick in the pole. My pole is from 1947 on my property. 1947. We were sitting in a restaurant one day out on the mesa, and my girlfriend called and she said, there's a fire out on 36th Lane. Well, the wind had been blowing so hard that day that it snapped some of those poles. The poles were hanging, the wires were down, and they had started a field fire. So, you know, there's this whole other industry that's out there. They've just approved a bunch more at Colorado Springs this year under the election. So when they flip on those switches, when the grow season happens during the winter, it's at peak times. So we're going to hit them up with peak financing charges. And then between the time you were there a few weeks ago, Thursday morning, the Pueblo County Commissioners approved another 4,000 acres of solar in Pueblo County. We will now be pushing 60,000 acres of solar in Pueblo County with no end in sight. No end in sight. And nobody can address the fact that that solar that they're installing in Pueblo County, and I really don't know about Canyon City or some of the other counties, but it's not affecting our rates at all. So you have these industries that they're pulling lots of energy. You have a whole solar array that's going on that nobody can address how it's going to help us. I think all of it's being transported out of state, and we're the ones that have to suffer. I shouldn't have to worry about my house burning down or our fields catching on fire because of a pole that was placed there in 1947. The young man tried to tell me that my transformers were better back then, and I really wanted to keep that transformer instead of a new transformer. That terrified me. This doesn't work. It doesn't work for anybody. Like I told you at the last meeting, I will be on a fixed income starting this month, and I'm terrified about how that's going to work out for me. Pueblo County, East Pueblo County is a very poor area. Sister Nancy operates her function in Avondale, which is about 4 miles from my home. This is a really tough, struggling thing for people, and we just can't face this. And when they're not willing to come in and update the utilities that are already there for the benefit of the people that use it, but they're willing to do it for drug companies and marijuana grows, that just doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Fry, Ms. Kathy Madonna, Ms. Julie McCullough.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Fry, and I've lived in this area pretty much all my life. I used to own an ice cream shop. How many of you went and made your first transaction as a child in an ice cream shop? As a matter of fact, ice cream shops many times are used as the canary in the mine, the economic mine. Many times you'll see the ice cream shop opened up and all is well. And so the economy is good. But back in the day, in 2012, I looked around and decided I'm going to open an ice cream shop. I gave it a go. I crunched all the numbers. I did my business plan. I realized it was seasonal. But I also knew that tourism dollars turn over about 7 times. And that would be a good thing to help with in my community. So I was just about getting my footing a few years in. In 2016, I think it was, when Black Hills Energy upped the rate. And actually, here's the interesting story. I got a phone call from someone who said that they were from Black Hills after hours. And you need to know that this happens a lot of times in a community that has trouble paying their power bills. And someone may call and say, oh, you haven't paid your power bill. We'll send a truck right over and somebody will collect that check from you. Well, I had had a couple of phone calls like that, but I didn't fall for it. So when this phone call came in, I thought, oh, this is another one of those. But no, it was actually Black Hills Energy calling me to say, very informally and without notifying who they were, this is what they said. You are one of the unlucky ones. And I thought, what in the world are you talking about? And it was right at the time when things were being reviewed with regard to how the demand rate was affecting businesses. And things were going to be divided this way or that way for charges. And so it was totally confusing, that phone call to me. So I contacted Vance Crocker, who was the Black Hills Energy Director of Transmission. And he actually came to the shop and he said, well, yeah, we're doing all of this and the rates are going to go up, and you've got this, you're in this demand level, and again, it was all very confusing. And I've slept since then too. That was several years ago, so I don't remember it really well. But the thing is that I asked him, I said, is there any way that I can buy my power from someplace else? I says, I know that there's a solar array north of town. I'd like to buy my power from there. I sell ice cream cones. there's not much markup on that. And he said, sure. You can buy from the solar array north of town. And I thought, well, that'll be nice. And I said, when do we start doing that? And he told me, well, we'll be working on that. In the meantime, I'll send over this, I don't recall her name, but she came and did an audit, an energy audit of the shop, and decided that I needed new lights. So we completely redid all of the lighting in there, but that didn't answer the question about how when the power went out, my freezers all came on at once. And that threw me into the demand rate that Carol Dunn was talking about. The fabric of our community is really fragile. It depends on tourism, and when the dollars that people like me and others who own small businesses work very hard to generate, when those dollars leave this area, that means they don't bounce around here 7 times. They're just gone. So like I said, the fabric of our economy is very fragile. And we all find our ways to make it work. Because we may not be wealthy, but we're rich in many other ways. And I would ask you to say no to the Black Hills energy increase, because such an increase might just unravel our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kathy Madonna, Ms. Julia McCullough, and Ms. Sarah McCullough.
Hi, I'm Kathy Madonna. I'm a resident of Florence, Colorado. Have been for 5 years. Prior to that, I lived here in Canyon City and was part of the Canyon City Energy Futures Group. I am a 72-year-old widow. I run my own business, and this impact would be very impactful to me. Not just because it's a rate increase on my bill, but as been previously noted, it would be an increase in my water bill, which is already higher because Florence pays for the water system for the federal prison. It would be an increase in my grocery bill. It would reduce the times I go out and buy a hamburger and a beer because their charges would go up and I'd have less money to pay for it. I am not unique. This town in this area is full of seniors. I am a Medicare insurance agent. My job is to deal with seniors. This year, Public Employee Retirement Association, PARA retirees, received an 84% rate increase on their Medicare insurance. It went from $37 to $234 a month. If you have 2 employees of PARA retired, that's over a $400 rate increase a month. With all the other rate increases because of COVID and the broken supply line and the following corporate greed, I view Black Hills rate request as another corporate greed event. There is no reason for them to give us a rate increase when we are already paying more than richer counties. They're not taking into consideration who we are. Downtown Florence is full of old, quaint, beautiful, 100-year-old buildings that are occupied by business owners trying to make a living, trying to keep those places warm and cool. With a rate increase, we'll break some of them. And then what does that do to Florence? Black Hills has been negligent in understanding who its customers are. And I ask you to speak on our behalf. No rate increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Castle, is there someone we skipped who you'd like to bring up?
Yes, we've got someone who needs to go to another meeting with the Parks and Rec, and she's just asking if she can speak. Is that okay?
Thanks for joining us, and sorry for any confusion.
It's okay. It's all right. Thank you for allowing me to come up. So, good evening, and thank you for being here tonight. A special thank you to the Public Utilities Commission for coming down to Canyon City to hold this hearing and allowing the voices of our citizens to be heard on this case. My name is Randy Esquivel. I'm a long-term resident of Canyon City, Colorado, and a small business owner. I am here to express my strong opposition to Black Hills Energy's outrageous proposed rate increase. Many residents in Canyon City are already facing significant economic challenges, and this increase will disproportionately burden low and middle income families. Meanwhile, Black Hills Energy continues to report profits, and their CEO is earning millions. The increase doesn't just tighten family budgets. It takes food off the table for my children and many other families in our community. It diverts resources from critical investments in our community, such as education, infrastructure, and community projects. As Black Hill operates as a monopoly in this area, customers have no alternative providers to turn to for competitive pricing. According to utility reports, Black Hills Energy has applied for multiple rate increases over the past decade, substantially raising costs for customers without providing proportional improvements in services. For example, in my neighborhood alone, we experienced at least 6 power outages just this year, including during a dangerous snowstorm last winter. My family had to seek shelter with relatives in Florence because we were without powers for days. During this time, we lost an entire fridge and freezer full of food. Black Hills Energy offered no meaningful assistance beyond stating they were doing the best that they could. While I sincerely appreciate the linemen working hard to restore power, the company must do better for its customers. I respectfully request that the PUC reject this proposed rate increase. Instead, I urge you to please prioritize fair and equitable energy pricing for all Colorado residents. Thank you for considering my concerns. I trust that the PUC will make a decision that reflects the best interest of the hard-working families in my community. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, no, thanks. Ms. Julie McCullough, Ms. Sari McCullough, and Denley Kester.
Good evening, Commissioners. I thank you for your time and effort to listen to my neighbors and I. My name is Julia McCullough, and I have been a consumer and payer of electricity for 45 years in this community. I've worked here for insurance agents, in the city finance office, the Department of Corrections, the RE1 school district, and the USDA Service Center. My husband and I are both retired, living on a fixed income. My husband is a double below the knee amputee and has various other health issues. As his health deteriorates, we are needing more and more medical supplies and the expense of out-of-town trips to his doctors. He has 7 specialists that we go out of town to see. I drive a 2010 Honda with body damage. Our other vehicle is 3 years younger, and it's a van to accommodate his wheelchair and his walker. Our cost of living increases to our pensions have not kept up with the cost of goods and services in this community. We live paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes, I shouldn't admit this, but I closely time writing checks knowing they will hit the bank after our pension checks are deposited. I feel resentful that this community is being charged the highest electrical rate in the state. And I'd like everybody to think about that. That includes Aspen, that includes Vail, and that includes Boulder. As you drove in, you probably thought, this really doesn't look like the wonderful, expensive parts of Colorado. So, I need your help. Please deny Black Hills Energy their request to raise our rates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and sorry for your health issues. Ms. Sarah McCullough.
Good evening. My name is Sarah McCullough, and I was born and raised here in Canyon City. I did leave for a while to move to Boulder County and was there pursuing my education, and I received my master's in public administration. In spring of 2023, I returned to care for my parents in our small ranch here in Canyon City. As part of the duties of my employment for a small local business, I board 12 goats on our property. These goats are part of a fire mitigation team, so they serve a very important purpose. From an agricultural perspective, a significant electricity rate increase would put undue pressure on my family and the animals for which I am responsible. From a public administration perspective, I understand the various pressures that this commission faces, so I appreciate the challenging nature of this case. It is, however, neither just nor reasonable to impose double-digit rate increases in a region that is home to so many economically vulnerable people. Thank you for the vital role that you play in keeping Black Hills Energy in check. I am grateful for your time, and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Denley Kester, Mr. Steve Andrews, and Ms. Beth Catchmere.
Howdy, lady and gentlemen. I'm just an old stove-up cowboy who moved here for my last stand. And I can tell you that the rate increase they're talking about is going to drive the inflation in this area. Energy costs drive inflation. That's what causes inflation if you study economics. And a double-digit increase means that we will have a lot more inflation here than the surrounding areas, especially the ones where excel. Now, I spent most of my life doing development. I've probably laid out tens of thousands of miles of electric line. And I have never seen anything like this rate increase. I'm the guy that had to write the stuff for the people who were Excel and public service before that, were trying to explain to them why we would put this in and the developers would pay for it, and these people were getting the same rates that they were, except their rates were going to raise with the neighbors. So I got to admit, I have never seen such a document full of obfuscation and just plain data that goes off into nowhere. Now, this rate increase, it's going to cost me about $200 a year, which is a month's worth of meds to keep me alive. That doesn't make me happy. I could spend that money on, maybe going and visiting some friends and buying a steak once in a while. I haven't had a steak for 2.5 years. So, that's my feeling on this. But my mom, I was born in the foot of Pikes Peak, and I grew up 90 miles east of here in Ordway. My mom had the laundromat there, and we were right across the street from the old Southern Colorado Power Company office. And the people that ran that Southern Colorado Power Company seemed to be interested in helping people start businesses, make a go of them, bring in industry, do whatever it took to have an expanding economy. But you can't have an expanding economy if you're driving people out of business by raising their costs where they can't even afford to stay in business. So, as far as I can see, there's no real point in this raise. I mean, Excel does the same thing for half. They have more people per amount of line and infrastructure than Black Hills does by far. So how do they manage to do it for half the price? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Andrews.
Could I approach the bench and give you copies? I want you to look at something as I speak.
You may.
Thanks very much to all three of you for making the trip down. My name is Steve Andrews. Just for background, I worked as a contractor at the PUC back in 2000 as a in one of the legislative initiatives that was involved in whether or not the utilities should restructure in terms of vertical integration. With apologies to Charles Dickens, I'm going to have a few comments here called The Tale of Two Cities. Quickly, first one is Fort Morgan, 11,000 residents, local economy based on agriculture and related industries, cargo plant, Leprino Foods, sizable dairy farmers of America. The third paragraph on their website in their brief says, did you know the city of Fort Morgan has the lowest electric rates for commercial and residential customers in Colorado? Small city, a little bit smaller than this one, a lot lower rates. Their schedule of rates can be printed on 2 pages. Pretty simple stuff. Pretty simple stuff. Canyon City, 17,000 residents, 32,000 in the greater metro area. Local economy highlighted by tourism, as you've heard, and also Department of Corrections. No comment on the website about electric rates being among the very highest in the state. Black Hills' publication of rates that the folks are subject to is at least 66 pages, and it could be more. That's all I printed. And for folks in this town who are trying to struggle through those rates, you realize that 25% of them are over the age of 65. The second point I want to make is the 2 graphs I'm showing you here. The first one from 2022 with something superimposed from 2024 shows some historical rates for average customer bills through 2022 and the forecast of where those rates were going to go. Then I updated it to 2024, showing where the rates have gone, actually slightly down, with a forecast of where they would go out to the year 2030. You'll note that the forecast in May in this room was forecast to be a decline. In June, 1 month later, the second graph shows what the updated forecast would be. 1 month later, it's dramatically higher. And not only that, if you look at the scale of the 2 graphs and the history of them, they don't match. The scale of the second one makes the impact of the coming rate increase look smaller than in fact it is. My second point from the really numerically loaded back page, I just want to point out a couple things. It's been mentioned, and I did in Pueblo, that there have been problems with small commercial going out of business. The back page shows about in the center the number of customers Back in 2009, when Black Hills came here, it was 11,400. It's now 11,800, pretty small growth for all that time. In fact, though, it dropped by 551 last year, from 2022 to 2023. Look at industrial. Went from, in 2009, there were 90, down to 55. That could include some reclassified large commercial customers, reclassified from industrial to large commercial. I'm uncertain of that, but all I do know is that the industrial sector has not thrived under Black Hills. In fact, if you look at the far right, consumption of megawatt hours per year by the industrial sector is down by 25% since Black Hills took over. That's significant. That has to have had a significant impact on the community. Is it all because of high rates? No, but when you talk to the Pueblo Economic Development Corporation, and I'm sure when you talk to, you've heard already this evening that these very high rates, extraordinarily high rates for this type of community are just not sustainable. So, like everyone else, I urge you to accept the UCA's recommendation that the request for a rate increase be denied. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Beth Kachmar, Mr. Joseph Cordova, Mr. John Zimmerman.
Hi, my name is Beth Kachmar. I've been a resident of Canyon City for almost 20 years, and I own a Main Street business called Pizza Madness. We're a very busy restaurant. We have a lot of refrigerators. We don't have air conditioning because we can't afford it. We have swamp coolers. But my most important asset in my restaurant is my employees. I have 45 employees. They're all part-time. Most of them are single moms raising families, students with their first job, people on probation and parole out of the prison system, people with disabilities and special needs. And my most important part of my business is to keep my employees employed. And my business has dropped 30% this last year because people don't have money to spend on going out to eat. They don't have, because by the time they go to the grocery store and get some gas, they don't have time to go to a restaurant, especially even tourists. In July, my business was down 30% compared to last year because the tourists were not spending the money they have in the past. If my utilities costs are raised, I will no longer be able to take care of my employees and serve the community in the manner that I used to. I also own several commercial buildings on Main Street, and I pay most of the electric bill for my tenants because the tenants in the retail spaces on Main Street cannot afford to stay. They don't have employees, they're owner-operated, and they can't afford their utilities. So I include paying the utility just to keep them in business. I highly recommend that we do not raise the rates in Canyon City or in Black Hills area at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Joseph Cordova.
Hello, thanks for coming. My name is Joseph Cordova. I work for the United Steelworkers as a union griever in that down at Wholesome. But one of the things that at the meeting that we had last week with, I believe his name was Joseph Perza. So anyway, some of the things that he brought up, which very interesting, in which Mr. Andrews brought up too. So your customer classes, industrial, commercial, and residence. Industrial is paying only 25%, commercial is paying 33%, residential is paying 42%. This is based off the chart that he provided us. In the Reneview allocated, industrial 82.5 million, commercial, 108.9 million, and residents 138 million. So when I worked out at Wholesome, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Wholesome, but they're the biggest energy user in Fremont County. When they're only paying 25% and the residentials are paying 42%, doesn't click with me. Commercials right in the middle. So Wholesome, HOL, is short for Holder Bank Switzerland. CIM, C-I-M, Cement and Many, because the company, Cement and Many, is a worldwide company that they got cement companies all over the world. But when they make their revenue, when they make their profits, it doesn't stay here in Fremont County. So the customers, the residentials, are paying a lot more than the company that's shipping all their money out of the country. So this increase that you guys are proposing doesn't make sense to me. I want a 0% increase, because I hear so many things that the people hear about the low-income people. How are they going to make it? Just last week, I saw a lady pushing a cart down, probably 80 years old. 2 cases, 1 chicken, 1 beef for Raymond Pride. So out of curiosity, I followed her. She went over to the meat department and looked at the discounted meats. With the increase of our insurance for houses, because we're getting caught on the insurance, because my insurance, I can't give you a definite, but it had gone up probably 15-20% because of all the wildfires. And based on where I live up against the mountains, my insurance is going up because of that. But you look at all the other ones. How can these low-income people buy their medication and buy groceries and stuff with another rate increase coming up, with taxes coming up and different things coming up? How can we sit there and justify a rate increase? One of the things I'd really like to see, I'd like to see each one of everybody that's involved with Black Hills Energy, when they have to go shut the power off of a single mother, elderly people, knock on the door, hey, your power's getting shut off. I want you guys to really see the feelings of these people, how they struggle. They struggle and struggle, and every day it's different. Things go up. It's just going to continue going up. So why are we allowing industrial to get the biggest break in this county than than our residential people and our commercial people? Because you have a lot of people here that are commercial where they told you how the struggles they went through. And to barely keep their noses above breaking even or making a small profit, it just doesn't make sense to me when you're giving a big break to industrial companies like Wholesome. Pass it all down to across the people. Take it away from the residentials, give it to the industrial, because their profit doesn't stay here in Fremont County. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. John Zimmerman, Ms. Buffy McFadden.
Hello, Commissioners.
Hey.
Welcome to Fremont County. I'm John Zimmerman. I live up on top of 8 Mile. One of my neighbors, Mr. Neenan, was just here saying how unreliable our power is. He's absolutely correct. I also have 3 businesses downtown here, industrial businesses. And energy has always been a concern of ours. I have a auto repair facility. I'm 2nd generation. I've been here 57 years. My family's been in the auto repair business forever. And one of my main concerns way back was energy costs, and it's electrical. So I took advantage of Black Hills rebate program, I think 16 years ago, and I put the solar on my businesses. And lo and behold, I still had a demand charge. And I asked them, why is it that I can bank power? I can make more power than I use, and I'm still paying you $255 a month. Well, they said it's because anytime you spike the power in a 15-minute period, you pay that for the whole month, regardless if you use it or not. I said, well, that's kind of not what I signed up for. I assumed that we were putting this up here so I could defray the electrical costs. So in the meantime, they did drop that in 2018, and it made a huge difference. And I have gone in and I have done everything I can in my business to keep it efficient. LED lightings, VFD frequency drives on my paint booth, you name it. Turning the heat down, turning lights off over lunch hour, everything. And the power bill is still substantial. So I have to pass that on to customers. What I fear about is we've been pretty successful, we've been pretty lucky And I'm just 8% from being a nonprofit. That's not very far. And some of my competitors, some of the bigger shops in Pueblo and the Springs I know, are 1 to 2% is their margin. So can you imagine raising the power bill, which is one of our major consumers because of the paint booth, electric heat and such. It's massive. It will get passed on to the consumer. I do thank Commissioner Bell here. They did have a program where Black Hills put an RFP out to put energy battery storage right next to my house up on 8 Mile. So they came up miraculously with about $25 million that they were going to put in this battery storage facility, which helps none of us at all. It comes off the WAPA line, goes all the way across the U.S., but we would deal with the problems, the fires, the potential. And Buffy and I were asking, who pays for that? Well, of course we do. The ratepayer pays for that. How does it benefit us? I don't see how it benefits us at all. From what I understand, any kind of construction gets a 10% profitability. Whatever they do in infrastructure, they get to make a 10% profit. I would love that in my business. I would love for you to buy me a building. I get to mark it up 10%. I get to tell you what I'm going to charge the customer, and you all have to come to me. That would be awesome for me. So I just asked, the rate increase has to be a zero. When I look at like what the cost, what the CEOs are obviously entitled to make a profit. It's a business. But when I see they have 425 employees and each one of them could get a $6,000 raise per year for just what the CEO makes, it's like that's a little over the top, I feel. So thank you for your time, and I'm voting for zero.
Thank you. Buffy, Ms. Buffy McFadden.
Good evening.
Hello.
My name is Buffy McFadden. I'm a resident of Canyon City. And I want to say very much thank you for coming out. I know you spent 2 nights, I believe, in Pueblo. And being here in Canyon City, it's an honor to have the PUC here along with the PUC staff. Anecdotally, I moved from Pueblo West, I believe about 7 years ago. And I have to say, when you live in Pueblo West and you go to sell your home, because Pueblo West is in 2 different territories, it's in Black Hills Energy territory and it's in San Isabel Electric territory, it's a selling point to sell your home by saying, I'm in San Isabel Electric Co-op territory. And as the PUC, I feel you're in the position of defining what is just and equitable, and basically you're the umpire deciding winners and losers. I have a history. I used to be in the state legislature, and I had the honor of representing Fremont and Pueblo counties, and I ended up chairing transportation and energy. And so I used to have to come back from Denver on a regular basis to Fremont County, and here it was my fault because renewable energy legislation passed that they were closing the power plant here in Canyon City. And I argued with Chris Burke then, who worked for Black Hills Energy, why aren't you being more truthful with the public? You went to the PUC to recommend closure of that plant quite a while ago because of aging problems. It was almost 100 years old, if not 100 years old. And in a good business plan, on behalf of Black Hills, I would rather build a brand new plant, be able to recover 10% over that amount for building, than to keep retrofitting an aging plant here in Canyon City. So that was very frustrating. I think probably one of the toughest jobs in the world right now is to work for Black Hills Energy and have to face the people on a daily basis. It's tough. We're in Fremont County. Fremont County has shy of about 50,000 people living in it. We have over 5,000 veterans. We have a population of 23% of people over 65 years of age. The median value, and this is according to the census, the median value of an owner-occupied home here in Fremont County is $264,300. For those of us living in this community, that sounds high, but when you go to other communities, you know it's not. Median gross rent, under $1,000, and that's going up. Those with disabilities under the age of 65, 14%. Median household income, I think you heard before, is about $56,000. And 16.8%, almost 17%, meet the poverty rate. So it would come as no surprise with my background that I'm a huge advocate for public employees. And whatever was going on before Colorado became a state, back in 1871, this community decided we would place Territorial Prison, just right immediately west of us, here in Canyon City. Not to be confused with the state hospital that's in Pueblo and has been there since 1879. So when Kathy Madonna talked about the Para Pension Fund healthcare plan increase, up until I believe when Denver Public Schools came into the Para Pension Plan, Fremont and Pueblo counties had the highest per capita rate of para in the whole state. That's because of public employment. A part of the Black Hills Energy's territory, and I'm going to skip over to Ordway because I don't know if anybody came to you from Ordway, is the Arkansas Valley Correctional Facility. Ordway only has 1,074 people, but there are 374 jobs alone at Arkansas Valley Correctional Facility, state facility. Here in Fremont County, we have 2,752 employees that work for the Department of Corrections. In Pueblo, they have 238 that work at La Vista. I used to call it Pueblo Women's. San Carlos, 300, and YOS, 248. What's my point? Of the entire Department of Corrections employment base, 55% of those employees work in Black Hills territory. Why is that important? Right now, the Colorado State Legislature, and some of us know the Joint Budget Committee better than others and how that process works. Right now, the Joint Budget Committee is telling departments throughout the state to look at cutting their budgets for the upcoming fiscal year. My biggest concern in a community that is already fighting on the edge of poverty in many sectors, if those public employment jobs go away because the Department of Corrections has decided it's cheaper to expand in Sterling or to expand in Denver than it is to keep jobs in Fremont, Crowley, and Pueblo counties, we will be immediately feeling those impacts. Our communities have served the state of Colorado before we were a state at Territorial Prison. We have been out of franchise with Black Hills Energy now for 4 years, and yes, we know a franchise is not setting rates, but it says there is a lack of trust with our regulated utility. Another example of a lack of trust is when Black Hills Energy built its substation in Penrose. They said you would not be able to see it from the highway on Highway 115. People in Penrose fought and fought and fought to have that substation someplace else. The joke now is you don't see it if you just close your eyes and don't look at it because it's so visible from the highway. It's a landmark now. Turn at the substation. I guess my point is this community, anywhere in this community, can't absorb a rate increase. But the real question is, when Emily Tracy notified Black Hills that there was an error in the rates that they submitted in the filing, what was sent to us in the mail back in July, and asked, are you going to send us a notice to correct it? The answer immediately was no. Now we're hearing, no, it's not going to be 18%. We're going to be benevolent, 13.8. In the highest customer rate base paying anywhere in the state, 13.8. Where's the truth? You're going to be the arbiters of truth. That's why I'm so grateful to the city of Canyon City and the city of Florence for intervening. I really wish Pueblo County's intervening, but I really wish Fremont County had intervened. We need you to hear us. We're not as sophisticated as the lawyers that'll be appearing before you. I almost said performing. I feel like Black Hills is performing. There was a warehouse, a discount warehouse. A gentleman by the name of Cy Sims started warehouses back east selling discounted clothes. His saying was, an educated consumer is our best customer. We're desperately trying to get the information. You heard there's Canyon City Energy Future. It was formed because we're fighting with Black Hills constantly. We can't get the answer. So when Emily Tracy says this feels like a new rate case, it does to many of us. Where's the truth? The transparency coming from Black Hills feels like it's opaque to us, the consumers, the ratepayers. And we can't implore enough to you that we agree with the utility consumer advocate, because I keep wanting to call it the Office of Consumer Counsel. We agree. Zero.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? That concludes my list.
Everything is always so darn high. Can you see me all right?
We can see and hear you.
Good. My name is Kathy Gatto, and I'm just going to read from my comments here. As a retiree on a fixed income, my position is that there be no BHE rate increase. A proposed increase of $15 or $20 a month is huge and impactful on a limited budget. Actually, BHE's proposed rate increase, in all honesty, feels predatory. Apparently, BHE was doing fine for 8 years, so that works against a huge increase being sought now and is, in my opinion, weak and suspect justification. There is no competition in this area to keep rates competitive, so BHE has the market cornered and citizens have nowhere else to go. That scenario only works to the benefit of BHE, not to U.S. citizens, or not to us citizens, or to Canyon City. The vast numbers of homes here with solar panels installed attest to already high BHE electric rates. Otherwise, homeowners would not go to the trouble and expense of installing them. I guess the question I would put to BHE, if they were here, is what kind of cost-cutting actions have you taken? Or have you thought to undertake, rather than just go to the consumer who's already paying exorbitantly high rates? That's something to think about. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Someone shorter than me. Yeah, hi, I'm Larry Swisher. I live near Penrose. Just a couple observations. People talk, it's been said that you have three entities here, right? Ratepayers, the commission, and the company. In this case, an investor-owned utility. But I venture to say there's also a fourth entity, the shareholders. So if you, not long ago, Black Hills Energy was bragging about how many consecutive years they've had dividend increases. So I thought, what the heck, get out the phone. Market Beat today said it's 54 consecutive years. Okay, 54 consecutive years. Steve Andrews gave me a copy of the Black Hills Energy annual report. The largest shareholder would be BlackRock. So it sure seems like to me like there's some room among the shareholder portion of this transaction to give up a little bit, okay? But anyway, thank you. And zero rate increase. Thank you.
Thank you.
After listening to all these fine people here, my granddaddy used to have a saying that he taught to my daddy, who taught it to me. And basically it was, at least when Jesse James robbed you, he had the decency to use a gun instead of a cash register.
Thank you. Any?
Thank you. I forgot to say a few things the first time. One of the things that's aggravating is I understand that we have to pay our legal fees to fight this. This is costing us more money already. Any of the interveners that have been hired, the attorneys, we have to pay for that, and we have to pay Black Hills legal fees too. The other question I have is, we keep getting notices from Black Hills about how we as residents need to buy extra coverage to cover our electrical lines that go from our homes to the poles. Are we paying for that? This has been more than a year campaign. They mail letters out to us almost every month. This kind of frivolous action is just adding more to our cost. And we've got attorney fees now. It shouldn't have gotten this far at all. That original rate proposal was full of mistakes, and now here we are, 6 months later. I never got a second notice. I have no idea what they're saying, what our rate is. All I know is it needs to be 0. Thank you.
Thank you. Why don't we take a 10 or 15 minute break till 6:30, unless there's anyone else who wants to speak now. All right, let's take a break till 6:30, and we'll come back at 6:30. Thank you. We're back. You can take your time, Fiona. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Going once, going twice. Oh, Mr. Andrews, would you like to take another bite at the apple?
You took the words out of my mouth. Thank you. There's some additional points. One was an overlooked comment that Jerry Fry could have made earlier, and that is, I think she sort of hid the ball. She, after struggling with those high electric rates, she eventually shut down and sold her business. And the current people who are running that ice cream shop are still struggling due to high electric costs and the seasonal nature, and they may have to close down as well if this rate increase goes through. Again, for the record, I'm Steve Andrews, spoke earlier. This stuff's complicated. I spend lots of time. You have lawyers, they have lawyers that spend lots of time. You have mathematicians and accountants. It's really complicated. I've worked with probably 30 commercial, small commercial, and to industry size outfits in Pueblo and Canyon City, helping them look at their utility bills, look at the impact and what it would be back in the 2018 rate case. Sorry, the rate case where the rates took effect on July 1, 2018, which was the last time there was a rate change implemented. And they have a lot of trouble understanding the demand components. Some had a really good feel for it, Trane and furnace manufacturers and folks like that. Many others, the smaller businesses, they struggled to both understand where their bills came from and how they could impact it. They got some help from Black Hills, but heck, in Jerry Fry's case, their recommendation to her with a whole lot of refrigeration for ice cream, their recommendation to her twice was change your lights. And to the new buyer, the recommendation was the same, change your lights, when clearly their load was all refrigeration, or at least the dominant portion of their load. It's a small shop, it's not big. It's complicated enough that I think most people, they don't follow the second largest component of their bill, which is the ECA, the Energy Cost Adjustment. You know that. I think most of the folks in the room don't keep up with that. They don't know that Black Hills, or they may not remember that Black Hills had to file a special rate, special rider, get a rider approved to spread out the cost of Storm Uri over 2 years. That just ended in April. And the ECA also dropped in June. And so actually, believe it or not, the rates are down now into a more modest high range. They're still among the highest in the state, but they are not the highest in the state. However, the highest in the state are rural co-ops, which have many more miles of line per customer than Black Hills or clearly XL. I want to point out that I did do one business calculation now. It's really hard to figure out what would happen to the large general service category, secondary. What would happen under their June proposal, and then what would happen on December 1. And this is a customer that had bills that ranged from $30,000 to $40,000 a month during the year, a lot of refrigeration and air conditioning. And the June proposal would have increased their bill by 5.6%. The November increase would increase their bill by 7.4%. So while others went down, theirs went up. And this is a large industry in town with a bunch of employees. I'll end with one final complaint. You'd think that a guy who looked at energy bills for, frankly, decades and helped people understand them and helped start the energy-rated homes of Colorado that was based on software that analyzed home residential rates, you'd think I could fully understand my own. I mean, this would be a given, right? But I can't. I spent another 20 minutes today trying to figure it out. That what I can't understand is the solar component of it, because the reporting of it keeps changing. It's changed over the years, and I still don't understand why the numbers on page 1 don't agree with the numbers on page 3. And maybe I can sit down with the gentleman from Black Hills and get that explained. But it goes to the difficulty of what customers are facing here. The number of riders that are on this very long bill compared to the municipal communities which don't face that complexity. You know, all the rates in here where it's a 2-page for Fort Morgan. It's a complex endeavor. And last two thoughts. Please again follow the informed and in-depth recommendation of the UCA, and Godspeed with your deliberations.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yep.
Hi, John Zimmerman still.
Once was enough.
Yeah, I guess that was enough. I'm just like that bad penny. I just keep showing up. So I had two more things I wanted to go over. I'm sure all of you got this, if you can see this, in your bill. All these nice little circles and graphs from Black Hills. And the attention goes right here.
Can you just say your name?
John Zimmerman.
Thank you.
All right? What I find interesting is right here, this 1.2%. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. That's what they say is generated by coal. But when I get into the prospectus, it shows right here that 35%, is generated by coal. And it's been 35% this year, last year, and the year before. Actually, coal generation is going up. So I thought the pretense for our bills going up was to go to the green initiative, basically. That's what they keep blaming it all on. And that's kind of interesting to me. And then one more thing that I didn't hear tonight. As a commercial owner, I got a warning from Atmos that our gas bill is proposed to go up 30% by the first of the year. So on top of this, regardless of what you do to the power bill, our power bill is going up. Because basically they just pass the gas prices through, if I'm not mistaken. So either way, what you do, we're definitely going to have higher power bills. So sorry for the bad news. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else who'd like to speak? Councilmember Tracy.
Thank you. Emily Tracy again. I did want to just add quickly to something Mr. Zimmerman said, and then also wanted to make a different comment. As was mentioned earlier and has been conveyed to the commissioners, in May, the company did come to the city of Canyon City and showed a chart showing that our costs literally would go down between now and 2030 because of adding renewables to the system, which we were all pretty happy to see. And then 1 month later, they filed for the increase. So I did want to just add that back in there. I don't believe Joan Chavez from the Department of Corrections has been here. Is that correct? And is not here now.
He is not.
I had talked with her on Friday, and I'm not going to try to testify on her behalf, but Joan Chavez with the State Department of Corrections is the utility programs manager, and I connected with her late last week, and I will connect with her again to encourage her to file written comment. I will just summarize by saying that she was very concerned. She deals with corrections facilities all over Colorado and is just very concerned about what's happening in the Black Hills Territory and what that would do. She had computed back when we got the first notice in June, she had computed that it would add, that first rate increase that was proposed would have added between $500,000 and $750,000 additional expenses to the bills for facilities in the Black Hills Territory. And she wanted to point out also to me that she deals with facilities that total 7 million square feet statewide, all of the DOC facilities around the state. And of those 7 million square feet, 2.5 million square feet are here in the Black Hills Service Territory. So I know she was going to crunch numbers over the weekend based on what the new proposal issued November 8th, what that was going to mean for corrections. So I was hoping we could hear from her this evening. But I will connect with her and encourage her to file written comment in regard to that. And she made the comment that I think Buffy McFadden also said, that the budget committee at the state level, state legislature, is saying you state agencies have to find a way to cut your budgets. And she doesn't know, Joan Chavez did not know how she was going to ask the legislature for more money for this electric bill when they're at the same time being asked to reduce their requests of the legislature for their budgets. So I just wanted to add that in, and hopefully we can get written comment from her. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'd encourage you to ask her to submit written comments. They are part of the record, and we do read them, so thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Ms. Harper, are we close enough to 7? Yes. I see other heads nodding in the crowd. So with that, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. It was a really informative conversation, and can't tell you how much we appreciate it, how much we value it, and how much it impacts our thinking and decision making. So greatly appreciated it, and turn it to my colleagues to see if they have any final thoughts they'd like to share.
I would just echo that. Thank you very much for coming out and spending so much time here. and for sharing your stories. I would mention that the hearings, you can watch them online live, and then they are also available on YouTube after if you can't watch during the day for 5-6 days. But if you're interested in hearing the various different arguments as they come up during the case, that those are available on YouTube on the Public Utilities channel.
Yeah, just wanted to echo the thank you of my colleagues to all of you for making it just a wonderful turnout here in Canyon City, and appreciate all of the perspectives. I know it's not easy to get up to the microphone. It's not a lot of people's job to do public speaking all day, every day, and very much appreciate just your courage, your dedication, and your willingness to come and share with us tonight. And thank you for welcoming us here to spend the evening with you.
Thanks again, and with that, we're adjourned.